And here is another bombshell. This is Dracula himself admitting that the U.S. never actually was looking for a diplomatic solution to the genocide. It seems quasi-accidental, meaning he doesn't correct himself, so he must have meant to say it in some regard. But I don't think it's ever before been stated that the U.S. was not really looking for a ceasefire. I mean, diplomatic solution means ceasefire. Was not really looking for it to ever happen.
Prem, go ahead.
Thank you, Matt. What we're seeing in Lebanon, we saw a similar pattern with regards to Rafah. First, the U.S. saying that they wouldn't want to see Israel conducting major operations, then Israel going ahead with what they called limited operations, and then this continued tolerance of sort of day-to-day attacks. That has led to over 44% of all buildings in Rafah either destroyed or damaged, according to satellite photos, which is to say that there might not have been a major operation in Rafah, but there was cumulative attacks that led to a good deal of destruction. So how does this precedent of Rafah portend for Lebanon?
So every conflict is different, but if you look at what we continue to engage with Israel about when it comes to Lebanon is ensuring that they have the ability to attack terrorist targets, terrorist infrastructure, a terrorist organization. But ultimately, we want to see a diplomatic resolution.
Well, was that the case with Rafah? For instance, not just in Rafah, but
we've never wanted to see a diplomatic resolution with Hamas.
Well, wanted to see a diplomatic resolution with Hamas.
Well, did you catch that? And he didn't trip. Did I stutter, motherfucker? He didn't trip. We've never wanted a diplomatic solution. Hamas is the government of Gaza. Whether you like them or hate them or something in between, they are the government of Gaza. If you never wanted to have a diplomatic solution with Hamas, that means you never wanted a diplomatic solution to this genocide. Because there's no one else to talk to. Love them or hate them. Who are you going to? You're just going to go to a fruit vendor on the street and say, hey, let's really hammer out this ceasefire. They are the only ones there could be a diplomatic solution with. So when he says this, and he then smirks afterwards, when he says this, it is a major admission. We've never wanted a diplomatic solution to stop this genocide.
Okay. Well, what about the ceasefire?
We wanted to see a ceasefire, but we have always been committed. We have always been committed to the destruction of Hamas. We did want to see a ceasefire, but we have always made clear that we wanted to see a different authority moving forward in governance of Gaza.
That is a nonsense statement. There's no one else to have a ceasefire with. And who have all these discussions? There's been discussions, right? We've heard this for goddamn a year. All the discussions on the ceasefire, they're working towards a ceasefire. We're trying to create a ceasefire. We're working on a ceasefire. Well, who were you working on it with? Who were you working on that keyword diplomacy with? People in Hamas. Now, yes, Israel then assassinated the top negotiator. So clearly Israel's not looking for a diplomatic solution. This is a major admission that they have never been looking to end this genocide. They've just kept perpetrating it. This is a pretty bombshell story, honestly. Again, not that we didn't know Blinken is corrupt and disgusting and morally repulsive, but you got to remember the U.S. government, every aspect of it, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Antony Blinken, they've all said, we support Israel, we support their right to defend themselves, which means nothing. Apparently means you can genocide people. But the thing they've kept saying is like, well, hitting these aid organizations is wrong, and we got to stop that. And Israel's promised me they're not going to bomb any more aid organizations, and they're going to be more careful with who they bomb. And apparently now we're bribing them to bomb the right areas of Iran. It's from Drop Tight News, Jeremy Scales' new thing. Blinken approved policy to bomb aid trucks, Israeli cabinet members suggest. From the very beginning of Israel's assault on the Gaza Strip, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken had his hands on the steering wheel. After October 7th, Blinken was the first senior U.S. official to arrive in Israel. On October 11th, said, quote, I'm going with a very simple and clear message that the United States has Israel's back. Blinken was there to demand that Israel rethink its decision to bomb any humanitarian aid entering Gaza and impose a total siege on the Strip. From within the Kiryat, which is Israeli military's main headquarters in Tel Aviv. Wait a second. The Israeli military main headquarters in Tel Aviv? So you mean it's near civilian population? So they're using the civilian population as human shields? Oh my God. Israel's using human shields. This is just a horrifying revelation. From inside Israeli military's main headquarters, Blinken participated in the frantic discussions of the Israeli War Cabinet, the decision-making forum guiding the genocidal campaign that were occurring in parallel to conversations in the broader security cabinet. So Blinken was there helping them decide on their next moves. According to Channel 12 reporter Yaron Avraham, On October 16th and 17th, the Security Cabinet deliberated for hours over the precise wording of the decision, with each draft being passed between the cabinet room and Blinken's room, a distance of a few meters away inside the Kiryat. Eventually, around 3 a.m., they arrive at an agreed-upon text that is read in the cabinet room in English. Does this not sound like the U.S. government is part of the Israeli government? Literally, they have their own office. Blinken's sitting there in the Blinken office in the Israeli military's top headquarters, and everything's being passed through him and approved by him. Blinken, for his part, concluded the day with a triumphant speech, taking responsibility for restarting humanitarian aid to Gaza. So Blinken goes out, gives a press conference going, we got the humanitarian aid running. However, Israel continued to bomb said aid and shoot at people going to get said aid. In a separate Hebrew version of the statement, it said, quote, in light of President Biden's demand, Israel will not thwart humanitarian supplies from Egypt as long as it is only food, water, and medicine for the civilian population located in the southern Gaza Strip or moving there. And as long as these supplies do not reach Hamas. Any supplies that reach Hamas will be thwarted. So you heard the term thwarted used twice in that paragraph. And then Dropsite News says the Hebrew word, lisakal, I don't know how it's pronounced, but anyway, means to thwart and is frequently used by Israel to describe targeted killings and assassinations conveyed to Egypt as an explicit threat to bomb aid trucks. So when they say we will be thwarting aid coming from Egypt unless contains something we don't like or is headed to Hamas, which how would you decide if something's headed to Hamas? And when they say that, they mean we will bomb it. We will murder those involved in those aid trucks. So Israel's favored aid provider, World Central Kitchen, this was one of the most famous attacks, right, on aid. World Central Kitchen fell victim to the same policy. Over the course of several minutes, an IDF drone pursued a 7-member World Central Kitchen team driving along a designated route that they had gotten approved with Israel. So they go to Israel. They say, we're going down this road. Our cars are marked with World Central Kitchen on the roof. And they bombed them. They blew up one car. The survivors got in a second car. They blew up that car. The survivors got in a third car. They blew up that car. And at that point, everyone was dead. So it was systematic and carefully done. It was not, a bomb landed somewhere and happened to hit a car. 3 different airstrikes, several kilometers apart, targeted and killed every single one of them. The State Department was happy to have the investigation conducted by the president and CEO of one of Israel's largest arms manufacturers. Oh, this is the darkest comedy in the world. The ultimate culprit for the killings, the policy that Blinken had brokered, was not amended. So this has never before been reported, that Blinken was in the offices with Israel, with Israeli decision makers, deciding this policy, saying Israel would be bombing aid trucks if they felt like they didn't like them. If Israel's like, they probably have stuff we don't like, they probably have people we don't like, bomb them. And Blinken was there approving it. Blinken and Biden's visit resulted in the formulation of the Israeli policy of starvation as it stands today. The United States, including Blinken and others, have legitimized this tactic. Starvation as a weapon of war is okay as long as we agree with your aims. That U.S.-approved policy was then implemented using U.S.-manufactured weapons with the backing of U.S.-imposed sanctions under the veil of a U.S.-constructed narrative. So this is a pretty big report to know that they were in on it. We know that the U.S. could have stopped this at any time. That's been known for a long time. The U.S. could pick up the phone at any moment. Blinken, Biden, if he knows how a phone works, arguable. Any of them could pick up a phone and say, guess what? All your bombs, all your money being shut off unless you do what we want. And it would be over. And they don't. Every day they don't. Every fucking day they don't.